Welcome back to another episode of Rift with Friends. Today we are joined by a player who just made a massive statement on the competitive scene. TSS Souledout, fresh off an incredible second place finish at the Sydney
Thank you.
Regional Qualifier, piloting the explosive Sivir Aurora build. From navigating one of the toughest tournament fields we've seen so far to mastering one of the most talked about archetypes in the current meta, we're diving deep into the deck choices, matchup strategies, tournament prep, and what it takes to make championship runs possible in Riftbound. I'm joined always by Justin, and without further delay, we'll get it kicked off. Justin, why don't you take it?
So how have you been since you've been back from Sydney? Has everything kind of been smooth sailing? Are you taking a break from cards, or are you kind of just still on the same grind?
There's no break.
Yeah.
No break. I mean, pretty much since I got back, it's been the same old getting ready. Next event's Vancouver and then Hartford after that. I was going to go to the event in Europe, but things didn't really work out for that one. So just Vancouver and then Hartford. There's a lot of things that go into the next event after Sydney is very interesting because of how the meta is going to develop. People are going to make tech choices for the decks that are doing well and the decks that aren't doing well. So there's a lot of consideration to be had for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of the cool thing with Riftbounds being so new, and we kind of have the dual China and Western side is that you're seeing, China push out their deck styles, but then you see the Western events, and then within a week to 2 weeks, you see this adaptation, right? And for those of our viewers who may not know you yet, who is TSS Souledout? And
Souledout is fine.
Souledout. And do you want to introduce us to kind of what the secret sauce is, since you kind of mentioned that on
air? Secret sauce is just me and my group of guys. Just your standard competitive TCG team. We do testing and stuff together. Relatively soon. I say soon because these things can get delayed and whatnot. It's going to be like a group content sort of deal. We want to, we spend a lot of time, pretty much every single day. We spend a lot of time in testing, talking about matchups, and we have a lot of information that we just kind of don't do anything with. That I think would be really great to just give to people. Whether for it's paid monetization or just for free. Honestly, there's a lot that we have available to us that just doesn't get used, and there's a lot of information that I think would be benefit to the community. I think the number one thing I hate as a TCG player is, or as coming to the TCG community, is I see a lot of really bad deck lists and a lot of people being like, man, I don't know why this deck isn't working, I don't know why I'm not winning, blah 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 blah. And then I see their deck and I'm like, well, it's very obvious to me why you're not winning, why your deck isn't working. And it's sort of this information gap that I find doesn't need to be there. We live in the modern age. You have this information available to you. It's just a matter of getting it to people. So that's what I want TSS to be. Is it's a competitive team. Very similar to every other competitive team for whatever game. But ultimately, I want it to be a source of information for people. It's the secret sauce, basically.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So is Riftbound where you guys started, or what is your background in card games before Riftbound?
Contrary to what most other, comp professional players, I do not have a background in TCG. I have pretty much started my TCG journey with Riftbound. I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before on online simulators and stuff, but this is my first paper card game. My first paper event was RQ Houston, right? So, which I got top 32 at. As for TSS, the secret sauce, we kind of all met when the game started. We met through the Riftbound community Discord, and we just kind of kept playing the game, and eventually, we were all, because everyone in TSS kind of has a TCG background except for myself. And Gale Wins. He didn't really play TCGs before this either. You guys are probably familiar with Gale Wins, best of Yasuo from Houston. So we just kind of kept playing the game, and we just became friends. It was where else can we take this? How can we improve not only ourselves, not only our gameplay, but how can we improve as a team, even if it's not a team game, there's still improvement to be had, and we just put a name on it, so
I love that. Love that. So I know you're from Oregon. Is the rest
yeah.
of the secret sauce from Oregon? Are you guys kind of
No,
all over and just kind of
no,
met?
we are a online friend group through and through. We're from California, from on the other side of the United States. We have, I have people in our group from Australia and all over the world. So yeah, no, a worldwide sort of squad that we have together.
It's really great to hear that a lot of people can, kind of get together, find each other online, and really build something for the community and themselves, for education and everything. I mean, the information's definitely out there.
That's one thing I really want to stress to people is I'll have people that message me and they're like, "Oh, how can I get better at the game? I don't have a local scene or blah 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 blah." Personally, I do not have a local scene where I am. I go to locals once a month, maybe, and there's 3 other guys there. So you can very easily make it as a competitive player. You can do well at physical paper events if you put the time and effort in to practice, even if you don't have like a local scene or like a locals to go to. So it's all that kind of stuff is irrelevant.
Yeah, I think that's kind of and we keep echoing this. I think people underestimate the grandeur and acceptance of the Riftbound community. I mean, I've met some of my closest friends now who are part of the Riftbound community, and a year ago they weren't even around. So it's cool how quickly you guys can bond over cardboard, and it's kind of very infectious. It reminds me a lot of like early Magic. I know this is kind of like your first TCG, but like the early Magic when I was a kid, that's kind of how it was. You got to go ahead.
I was like, don't get me wrong. Like I am new to trading card games, but I'm very invested in the scene. And so like people reference, old Magic or like old Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm familiar. I've done my research. Like I know what's up. So yeah, I'm familiar with that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what was exciting. Is I mean, you used to get together with a couple of your mates and get around the lunch table and like deck tech and be like, "Oh man, you check out this card. How about this combo?" Like it was very very exciting. And Riftbound being so new and so early, being able to kind of shape how the metas work and kind of the interactions of card bases is there's an art form to it and there's a lot of excitement to it. So I love it.
Yeah. Do you think that going into some of these tournaments, I mean, we've heard a lot of different mindsets and perspectives from these different pro players considerably. So what was your mindset going into day one, and your overall expectations for the weekend? And did you live up to those expectations yourself?
I would say so. In terms of like expectations I had for the weekend, I was expecting, I'll make top 64, maybe go for top 32. I was not expecting to make it to top 8 and to finals, to be honest with you. I had only picked up the Sivir deck like 2 weeks before the event. And although I did feel confident about my matchups going in, I felt confident about, how my play with the deck. There's just a sort of, I just didn't expect to, make to finals, but I think that after the event, looking back at my matchups and my opponents and my matchup spread and thinking about the deck, I'm like, it makes sense that the deck went that far. Like the deck is extremely powerful, and so definitely blew away my expectations. I was very very happy with that performance. The number one thing I was going for was just best of Sivir. Like that was like the minimum. I was like, I want best of Sivir, and then anything after that is kind of extra. So I just kept winning. So I don't know.
I think that's kind of one of the uniqueness that Riftbound brings to competitive scene is that best of, and it adds an extra layer of dynamicness to going to these competitions. You don't necessarily have to be the best of the best, but you can be the best of your class or the best of your champion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're starting to see some players, that's all they go for. Like they're not even necessarily worried about a top 8ing or top 34 or sorry, 32. They're just really going in for that champion. So I love to see that. With Sydney, did you expect the field to kind of look the way it did? And were the matchups you were seeing kind of what you expected? Because it looks like you played,
Yeah.
I mean, a myriad. You played Ari Azir, Master Yi, just to name a few.
So the meta's so wide that I was expecting to play a couple oddballs, like the Ari. But most of the meta stuff that I played against was expected, and the builds that they were on were very similar to what I expected them to be on. Like all the Vex techs were doing very, pretty much what I expected. There was like a couple, there was like this like hidden theme going on in some of the Vex builds where I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but doesn't like overly change their game plan that I can adjust to that. The LeBlanc hook was a little more popular than I expected due to the challenger build. But other than that, everything was pretty much what I thought it was going to be going into the tournament. So, like I said, I was very satisfied with the preparation that we did before the event, and very happy with my matchup spread overall. So,
yeah, I think the only weird hidden aspect to the tournament was seeing that Teemo kind of make a deep run and how much hidden cards it was running. I was not expecting that.
And again, it goes back to say like the meta is so wide. Sometimes you'll just dodge meta matchups. Sometimes you'll just dodge. Sometimes you'll just get the meta matchups that you are good into. Can't say exactly for the Teemo's run, but it's not that crazy for like one random non-meta deck to like make it into top 8. I think that's pretty standard, honestly, for our events. Like we had that Jax at whatever event the Jax top 8 at. Was it Vegas or something?
Vegas.
Yeah. So not that crazy. Pretty standard, I'd say.
Were there any decks that you were worried about going into the event specifically, like any matchups that you were concerned with that you didn't want to see?
So my kind of take on Aurora is that it doesn't have bad matchups. Like every color pair, every deck has tools to deal with a deck. So I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that there was any matchups I was particularly worried about. Aurora doesn't have bad matchups, only bad pilots. So
yeah, I was gonna say, and every once in a while, bad draws. I think that's kind of like the lady luck there. Is sometimes you're just like, where is my Auroras? I know I played 3 of them.
Yeah, the thing about it is that like every deck has the ability to brick. Like any deck that's not Aurora is playing 2s. It's important to find a 2. If you don't find a 2, you're behind. I can't tell you how many games I've played where I did find a 2 and I basically lost the game on the spot, right? So I don't really factor in being unlucky as a reason to or not to play the deck. So I just don't really factor that in at all, because every game that you miss your Aurora is a game that your opponent missed their 2-drop and then you won, so it's just like it kind of evens itself out, to be honest. So
was the going into your run, obviously I know you weren't kind of shooting for the top 8. I mean, hopefully you are, but was there a moment in the tournament where you were just like, I've got a real shot at really making it?
It was actually Friday night. So Friday pre-regional, round 1, I play against Colin from Challenger, right? And if you guys are familiar with Colin, very good player. He was on the Hook LeBlanc, and honestly, I was so nervous. I was playing bad. I knew I was playing bad, so then I was playing worse, and then the entire time I'm just like, because keep in mind that I don't have a local scene, right? And so I say that you don't need a local scene. You don't need to go to paper events to do well, and I stand by that. That being said, there is a source of practice of just like moving the cards physically, like doing the stack deck and like doing the scryers and channeling the runes and shuffling the deck and like all that stuff that I don't really practice as someone that does a lot of online stuff. And I don't want to look like a noob basically, and next to this very esteemed player, and so that made me more nervous. And so a lot of combining factors basically, right? And so we play that match, he won, kind of smoked me, honestly, game 3. And then afterwards, he says to me, this is probably going to be your toughest match all weekend. And then it struck me like a bullet to my chest. And I'm like, wait, if this is what it takes as one of the best players on this absolutely broken LeBlanc hook deck to beat me, I'm just going to beat everybody. And so that's what I did. I was stone cold the rest of the weekend. I'm just like, I'm just the greatest of all time, And so I've won my other 4 matches on Friday. And then it was like, okay, as like the only thing holding me back was myself at that point. Was I was just not confident in my ability to win, and so then I wasn't winning. And then the moment you flip that and you're like, actually, I'm the greatest, just go undefeated. Like it's that easy.
Yeah, your confidence was infectious. I mean, from every time we got to see you on an interview, you were just more hyped and more hyped. It was very nice to see.
It goes back to that old quote, like the moment you think you can't, you won't, right? So it's like, it's the only thing is if you believe that you can, then you will, basically, which sounds stupid, but it's honestly the truth. It's honestly the truth.
Yeah, it was. So in a tournament that is this large, every player takes the approach a little bit differently.
Yeah.
How mentally exhausting was the day-to-day? And even flying over, I know that you said that it was pretty easy for you relatively, but
yeah,
was there ever a moment where you just hit some mental fatigue? How did you overcome that? Did you slam just a bunch of energy drinks?
So yeah, a common joke is that I was just slamming White Monster, and that's because it's true. It's at day 2, I basically drank like one around. Just like a combination of things. It like helps me focus and it keeps you awake. It's really I shout out to Monster. Please
best flavor
me.
too, by the way, that White Monster for sure.
Personally, it doesn't really matter to me that much. I know White Monster is really popular.
Yeah.
The only reason that I was drinking it is because I didn't buy them. My friend houses are big, so shout out to him. So in terms of like mental fatigue and such, I would say that at the end of day 1, I was definitely feeling it. My last, I think I lost a round in day 1 to a Diana player, and not because like their deck was better or like they played better than I did, simply because I was just playing bad, just played really, really horrendous in that match. And after that match, I'm like, okay, I need to lock in. Like I am at like playing really, really poorly right now. And then so round 7 and round 8, I kind of had to lock in a little bit, and luckily I was able to do so. Or maybe it was round 5. It was the Diana. I don't remember. Regardless,
it looks like stat wise it was round 6.
Okay, that checks out. Yeah. So just had to like make the mental note of like, I'm kind of crashing a little bit. I need to like lock in. And then I definitely noticed it in round 8 where I was not making decisions as quickly. I noticed that I was playing a little bit worse than I would have liked. Luckily, the deck is very powerful. There isn't so many decision points that you're thinking every single turn, which is honestly one of the deck's strengths, is that often it will pilot itself. And so at the end of day 1, I'm like, okay, so we got there, we won this match, day 2, I was fine up until the finals match where like I was playing really, really well. I felt very confident in all of my play. There was one thing in top four. This match wasn't on feature, but I made a misplay on one of my stack decks, and it was kind of then where I noticed like, oh, I'm crashing a little bit. Like I made this misplay. I noticed it as soon as I did it, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm I'm failing. And it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. I think I would have been able to like make it all the way. But after that top 4 match, the other top 4 match was still going, right? And so I had to go. I went and sat down. I sat down for like, I don't know, like half an hour or something while they were still playing. And by the time I finally got to the finals, I was just dead. I was just cooked. Like it was over. Like all the adrenaline was gone. So, I definitely played worse. I was tired. It's just like a combination of factors. Kind of ate away at me there, and so definitely I would say going into the finals match, I kind of knew from the start that I wasn't going to be on the top of my game.
So now with that transition into the finals, do you, at least within yourself, did you notice any pressure change as you're like getting qualified for the top 8, realizing you're making it there? Like we've talked to Prismaticism a little bit, and he talks about like getting to kind of like a plateau on the mountain, and then once you're safe in the top 8, you kind of have to then climb the next layer of the mountain. Did you experience that yourself, or did you kind of feel the same way going into top 8?
I know exactly what he means. Like once you're in top 8, it's like I'm in top 8. Like let's go. We're in top 8, and then once everything after that is sort of extra. And so I wouldn't say that there was like an added pressure per se. It was kind of the opposite for me, honestly. Is once you're in top 8, it's like I no longer actually, every match after this is a bonus, kind of. And so I was able to, make it to finals. And it's like once you're in finals, it's like we're in finals. Like it's what happens here is like, obviously I would like to win. But once you're in finals, it's like
brownie points.
It's exactly, it's like there's no benefit really to winning or losing this game. Like you don't get, you get stuff, but you don't, there's no like qualifications. There's no like, you get that little extra renown, which is totally great. But I'd already achieved all of my goals for the tournament and then some when I got there. So I would have liked to have won, obviously, but I'm very happy overall with how it, it's like. And another thing is like, it would have been too easy if I had won that match. I would have gone from my best place being a top 32 to just winning an RQ. Like, come on, these things sort of happen in stages, It's like you get to finals and then it's part of the story. You get to finals and then you lose, but then the next time you win, and it's like this progression.
Yeah,
and I just didn't want to.
builds.
I didn't want to skip all the steps, I didn't want to skip steps.
Another arc for another day. Would you mind kind of going over your deck list with us for the audience?
Of course.
And then we'll start off with the main board, and then we'll do a segue into the sideboard, the reason that you made the decisions you did, and the benefits of running the deck. So just kick it off. Take it away.
So the number one thing I get asked about is the disposal orders in the one of disposal orders. So I felt very confident about the main deck going into the event. And on Friday, the deck actually was different. I had a main deck invert timelines in this slot. And then I ended up, after the pre-regional, I ended up taking that invert out because I noticed that the games I was losing to LeBlanc had the timelines wasn't actually like winning me those games. And that's why it was in there. So it was for LeBlanc. It's like, oh, LeBlanc's going to draw her whole deck. She's going to get all these triggers, draw 6 off the Karthus, whatever. Timelines, you're going to, they're going to lose a bunch of card advantage. You'll like draw into a bunch of good stuff. Sure. But again, not the games I was losing. The games I was losing had way more to do with like Glass Mixologist and them just being able to retain like material on field. And so I'm like, okay, what's the best card I can play that beats Glass Mixologist, right? And so I ended up playing the disposal orders because if they go Glass Mixologist, trigger, target, Karthus, target LeBlanc, whatever, you can go, okay, boom, disposal orders, shuffle these guys all back, right? And then it had the added bonus of being good against Fizz. And Fizz was another thing that I was like kind of worried about. It's like, I don't want to get star-crossed Fizz, star-crossed my guy, that's a lose condition for my deck. So I play disposal orders. They go Fizz, target, whatever, orders, put it all back. Great. I get to completely blank that guy. And that allows me to retain my dragon on field and then untap with the guy, go from there, right? And then in addition to that, it has the buyout of even in matchups where it's not going to be particularly useful, you can just spend 2 to draw a card, which is like, some people play Confront in the deck still, when this is just strictly better than Confront. So
yeah, the dynamicness of that card, and it's something that we've been throwing around a little bit in our kind of local scene as well, is how powerful, like you said, especially against Fizz, of being like, okay, cool, choose your targets. Now we're going to go ahead and negate those targets. It's like an ability to cancel the dig and cancel the target. And like you said, it has so much added value rather than just drawing you with like Confront, right?
Yes. Yeah. So other than that, I felt... People ask me, like, am I going to make any changes for Vancouver? And the real answer is probably not. Like, I'm going to wait until the pre-regional, see what the spread is like. If there's, like, a bunch of one thing and not a lot of another thing, maybe I'll tech differently. If the builds I see in the pre-regional are favoring, certain cards, I don't know what the cards would be at the moment, but maybe when I see them, I'll be like, oh, okay, I need to be able to beat, this thing. Maybe I'll tech the deck differently. But overall, like the main board is pretty much 100% for me. Like I'm not going to change anything about the main board. Maybe I swap the disposal orders for something, but the other 39 cards in the or 38 cards in the main, those are like 100%. And then for the
Before-
sideboard,
Before we get to your sideboard, do you want to maybe kind of, I know you kind of touched base a little bit on
Sure.
some of your Sydney interviews, but the kind of the major differences we see with, say, the Sivir champion versus like the MF champion, and kind of like some of the strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, you were able to use Sivir's ability to the best of its ability, but I think a lot of people still are kind of stuck on the MF bullet time style of Aurora.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of talk a little bit about that?
So strictly speaking, MF is worse than Sivir for Aurora. The ganking never comes up ever, pretty much. If you're playing the deck correctly, you'll never tap your legend. MF lets you make some plays where you do make use of the ganking, like you just put everything all on a field and then gank over next turn. That's all well and good. Ali Eldrazi posted something that I agree with a lot, is the ganking is basically just training wheels, where like if you're not sure how to play the deck, if you're not sure how to manage your resources, the ganking is a great way to just not lose the game accidentally, right? That being said, once you get past that and you're like, okay, I actually don't need this ganking if I play my units correctly, if I manage my resources correctly, I don't actually need the ganking, then Sivir is just pure upside, being that I can be on 8 runes, play Splitter, untap with 9, play Aurora. I do that crap all the time. It's beautiful. It's just so good.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously we saw your high conversion rate. I think you were, let's take a quick look at the stats. Yeah, you had like an 87.5% win rate. So the conversion rate that you have with Sivir is just, it was very, very consistent.
I was 12-1 going into the top 8. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah, what do you think separates a good Sivir player from like one of the great Sivir players? And I would say, just for everybody out there is a little bit more of skill expression coming with the game, with more cards getting released and stuff. Yeah. So what puts you above everybody else? What's the secret sauce?
So fundamentally, Aurora, and this is the thing that I think people misunderstand about Aurora, is fundamentally it is a deck about risk management. You're just from turn 1, all you're doing is you are managing risk. You're managing, I draw my units, so I have to play around the fact that I can draw units, right? I have to play around my opponent being able to score, right? And so managing what turn I'm playing Aurora on, knowing that I need to play it by here or I'm dead or what have you. Aurora fundamentally is about risk management. The number one thing I think will separate a good versus a great Aurora pilot is their ability to, look at a board state or look at an opening hand and be like, I can get away with doing this, like mulling this, or get away with gusting this or not gusting this, or I can get away with not doing Kata here, or no, I absolutely need to Kata here. Knowing these decision points and being able to be like, this is what I can get away with without, risking, losing the game, right? Being able to maximize your value out of each of your cards is super, super important. So yeah, that's for me personally. That's what it is. It's just knowing what your break points are in terms of what is too risky to do and what is going to give you, like, maximize the overall benefit. So
follow-up question to that, since you kind of are the Sivir master at this point, are there harder sequences that you would say, or lines of play that make it difficult to pilot the deck? Are you just generally just trying to negate just risk management all the way through, or are you trying to get to some of these deeper lines of play and combos so that you can exponentially ramp, or again make sure you're not drawing your certain units so that you don't have them in your hand? Because having obviously a Elder Dragon in hand is not always great, right?
So to answer that question about plays and sequencing and stuff, I would say that Aurora is going to operate better in simplified board states. So the number one, like, the more variables you have to account for, the weaker your board is going to be, right? So like the more cards your opponent has, the more tools available to them, that's always going to be worse for you. So I try and keep things as simple as possible. I try and take simple lines to avoid, overcomplicating things. And then the more you complicate things, the more things you have to keep track of, which is also not great. You want to be minimizing the minimizing like how much mental space you're taking up, which I think is super, super important. Yeah, so keeping things simple is my number one thing. Like I don't want to, be like, oh, if I do this, blah 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 blah, I can oh, but the next turn I can do all this and this. No, it's like no. Play ramp, play card draw, play Aurora. It's that simple, and anything after that is just extra that you don't need, to be honest.
Gotcha. And then we'll segue right into the sideboard. What was the reason behind the card you chose? Was there any card that overperformed for the weekend that you weren't quite expecting to do so well? Or was everything just fully calculated out? You knew how it was going to go, and you just were able to push through it.
Pack of Wonders, as terms of like overperforming cards, Pack of Wonders, this thing is broken.
It's such a good card.
I was a hater on Pack initially. I was like, oh, I don't want to play this card. We're in set 3. Do we really still have to be playing this card? Blah, 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 blah. Pack of Wonders, like, actually, you cannot lose if you play Pack of Wonders. Like, you put this thing on a field on turn 2, it's over. Like, your opponent should just concede, honestly. You have infinite mana, infinite cards. It's just the best value engine in the game. I mean, second to Aurora, of course, but you get to play both in the same deck, so it's very good. It's very powerful. So yeah, definitely Pack overperformed, absolutely. In terms of like cards that I wasn't expecting, that I was kind of like iffy on, I would say Akshan. Akshan, I was like, don't really know if I need this guy. He's kind of just fading memories, but sometimes he's worse than fading memories because, if they have an out to him, then he just doesn't actually answer the card I'm trying to answer. That being said, he very much overperformed. And since I've been back, I've tested him a little bit more, and he's continued to overperform. He is maybe the best card you can have in the Aurora Mirror, to be honest. I love this guy a lot. He absolutely he's very, very powerful, very, very powerful, and enables a lot of lines that you don't have access to if he's not in your deck. So.
Yeah, I'll never forget my very first Aurora match. I had a guy pull this out on game 2 and stole my Dazzling, and I was just like, man, that feels so bad and so wrong, and now I have to deal with this. And you have ways,
and if you don't have an answer to him, you just lose the game on the spot. Yep. It's very funny to me.
Yeah, 100%. Was there often, I guess, talk about maybe kind of your post board plans, like in the matchups, like what are you bringing in for what matchups? What are you setting out of your main deck for certain matchups? Like what's your go-to?
So I did not have like a distinct, this is what I'm setting in, this is what I'm setting out for most matchups. Generally I like to do things a little vibes based, where I'm just like, this seems like it would be pretty good here. Or like, I think this guy will not play around this, or he will play into this, right? So, but generally each card has like a purpose of like, why is this in here? It's like, challenge kills units in my opponent's base, namely my opponent's Akshans, right? Fading kills my opponent's gears. Akshan takes my opponent's gears, but he's also gear hate that you can get off of Aurora, right? And then Splitter is just hand control. Anytime I want to take stuff out of my opponent's hand, anytime I want to control what resources my opponent has access to, that's when I put in Mind Splitter, right? And so like, as soon as you understand, a lot of people ask me for like, what's the sideboard guide? What do you take in? What do you put in? It's like, I don't know until I'm doing it. Like I don't know until after game 1 most of the time.
It's like whatever feels right? And I think
exactly.
I think for me, one of the hard things with Aurora is, and I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but like when you bring in an Akshan or a Mind Splitter and you're dazzling and you really want the Elder, but then you get like an Akshan and it's like, like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Like, do you ever have that situation when you're bringing in multiple units, or do you just feel comfortable being able to adapt with kind of having maybe the wrong unit come out on the Dazzle when you just know you're going to get there to the next one?
So generally speaking, I try to avoid putting in units if I don't have to. The number one thing I see Aurora built, the number one thing I see about Aurora builds is people putting in a bunch of like units that dilute their Aurora pool and just make their hits worse, right? So for me personally, I'm putting in like most matchups, I'm putting in like one splitter and taking out like one card from the main, and then just like let's run it, and you do kind of got to put in that second splitter to hit like hate, like sideboard hate, like
100%. Yeah.
I was talking about before with like each of these cards has like a purpose, and as long as you understand the card's purpose, it's very easy to be like, okay, I need to kill a unit in basing this matchup. Boom, put in the challenge. Post board, my opponent's putting in their hate pieces. Okay, that means I need to control my opponent's resources, so I'm going to put in an extra copy of Splitter. So I'm more likely to hit it after on the first hit, take their hate piece, and then every hit after that is going to be Dragon, right? Pretty much you always want every single hit to be Dragon. The only reason I'm playing the one splitter in the main is that you do actually kind of sometimes need that fourth guy to just like have an extra body on the field.
Yeah, so there's been times where I've had all three dragons, in the trash, and unless you can get last rites out to recycle, it kind of does feel a little rough. And like you said, Pack of Wonders is just a beast. So if you can stabilize, get a Mind Splitter out, and if they've dealt with a dragon or it's back in your hand, like being able to then just return Splitter, recast Splitter, and then take the next weapon out of their hand it's insanely powerful.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, after the Sydney Regional, what do you think that the best decks are going forward, since we got to see a little bit of a meta development?
So, yeah, I would say top 5, LeBlanc, Aurelia, Diana, Yi, Sivir, Aurora. Pretty easily, I think. I think it's very... I know Sivir did really well. It just won the Chinese tournament. And that deck is pretty good. So it could maybe go in there somewhere, maybe over Yi. But Yi has just like the representation. But his overall performance has been pretty bad. So maybe I would put a Sivir over Yi. But like, at that point, the margins are pretty slim. So just like something like that, I think would be fine.
They are very close. And I am always surprised when I do see a Sivir so high up in the standings. I mean, I think we see it a little bit more in the Chinese scene versus the Western scene, but it is like I don't know if it just, for me, it just doesn't seem like it has enough to get over some of these bigger brawlier decks, but it's kind of like a speed race and a swarm of that nature, right? Would you, is there any legends do you think that are kind of overrated right now that people are kind of stuck on? And
yes.
Is there any secret legends that you think are underrated that you kind of lean towards that when you're not playing Aurora?
So in terms of overrated, I would say Diana. I think that deck is significantly worse than its representation would lead you to believe. I don't know why that deck has 50 plus copies in any given tournament. It's very strange to me. Like, the deck doesn't do anything unless Hwei is on the board, and if you kill Hwei, their deck does literally nothing. So it's like, okay, cool. In terms of decks I think are underrepresented, not really. Like, I think there probably should be more Aurora, to be honest. I think a lot of the reason Aurora isn't as represented is because people don't know how to build it. I think people just build it wrong, they play it wrong, and they're like, oh, this deck is brainless. I either get Aurora or I lose. And it's like, well, are you putting Baron in your deck and you're hitting Baron and you're losing? And it's like, oh, I guess, it's like, I don't know, it's just weird. So I would say Aurora should probably be more represented, and Diana definitely overrepresented, in my opinion. It just definitely seems like the worst of the top decks at the moment. So
yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting thing, because like Corey and I deck tech and kind of look at lists all the time, but it seems like in the last like 2 weeks, everybody and their mother is trying to jam Aurora into their deck. We've seen Garen Aurora, we've seen Poppy Aurora, we've seen Yi Aurora, and I do think people are just trying to make the mechanic work, and I just don't think that it's built for every deck. Like, sure, yeah, you get to play stompy things or harness dragons or what have you, but it's not the best win condition, I don't think. Like you're saying, like trying to go for like an elder dragon is so much better than going for like a baron, right? Like optimize wise.
So yeah, for what it's worth, like I think if you're playing orange, you have a pretty good incentive to be on Aurora. I just think that any Aurora build you have is going to be worse than Sivir, like almost 100% of the time. Sivir, not only is it the best version of Aurora, just straight up, it's also completely demos every single mirror possible for multiple reasons. Like it's pretty much impossible to lose a mirror with Sivir against anything that's not Sivir. So,
gotcha. How important is deck mastery versus deck selection in the current meta, and do you see that changing?
So that's a great question. I would say that being good at a deck, knowing a deck's matchups and its play patterns is significantly more important than what deck you bring. The meta is so wide. The pricing structure is rewards players for being good at a deck, not being good at or not playing the best deck, right? So personally, I think if you are, I always tell people the same thing when they ask me like, what should I bring? Blah 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 blah. Just play whatever deck you feel most comfortable with. If you're like, man, I really want to, I really like playing Lux, and I don't know if Lux is good enough to win the tournament. It's like it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter. Like if you're good at Lux, if you're confident in your Lux build and you know your matchups and you know what your weaknesses are, it's the what's the quote from The Art of War? Like know yourself, know your enemy. You know, not fear the result of 100 battles.
Yep,
it's exactly that. Like if you know what your deck does and you know what your losing matchups are and what your winning matchups are, you don't need to be afraid of going into a tournament. You go, okay, I lose to this and I win against this, and the meta is so wide, your chance to just dodge any given matchup is pretty good, to be honest. Like once you get to like the top tables, you're gonna see more LeBlanc, more Aurelia, and stuff like that. But especially for the first like 6-7 rounds, you can play against literally just anything. So
it's
fair enough.
It's interesting to see people kind of how they practice and they kind of just grind out the top 4 or 5 decks, and it's like when you're going through the first like 10-12 rounds, it is so wide open. I mean, you played 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 different champions on your run just to get there, so like you're gonna play a diversity.
I think the only repeats I played were Vex and Master Yi. So and Master Yi was the second most represented deck, so everything else was just random one-offs. So
I think it's because Master Yi's entry level cost is pretty low and the mechanics are simple, and
100%.
I think
Master Yi is the easiest. People like to be like, oh, Aurora's so easy. No, Master Yi is the easiest deck to play in the game, and it's not close.
Play dudes, turn them sideways, and you're smashing, right?
Exactly. Shout out, turn them sideways.
Right. Are there any things that you think players are still getting wrong with like the Unleashed meta, or kind of maybe some cards that they might be, or lines of play that they might be misunderstanding or try to approach? Like, are they getting kind of the correct champions wrong? Are they, maybe playing the wrong sideboard cards? Is there anything on a nuance for new players for them to kind of figure out?
Yeah, I think that people are preparing too much for the top, 5 decks or whatever. Like again, meta's wide. I so many times would be like, oh man, I played against this random, non-meta deck and lost because I wasn't prepared for it. And it's like, you should have been prepared for it. Like you should be conscious that other decks exist in the game, right? And that especially in the early rounds, you're going to play into them. So I would say that it's not really like I would say the only thing that like the main thing I have for like cards that people are playing that they shouldn't be is anything that's not in my Aurora list being played in Aurora. So, but like other than that, and I don't think that like there's any objectively bad cards I see in deck lists. It's mostly just like a misunderstanding of what a deck is trying to do and how you should be preparing for a tournament. Like don't prepare for the don't overly prepare for the top tables, like, you know, in round 7, 8, when I'm playing, you know, when I'm in table like 12 and I'm playing against only meta, you need to be prepared to actually get there. And like, that's the number one thing I'm like, you know, and then on top of that, a lot of like more casual players will like see, like I'll see deck lists where it's just like the deck has no vision, no focus, and they're just kind of like cards I like, which is like totally fine. You know, if you don't play cards you like, that's totally good, but don't expect that to like do well at a tournament is the main thing I would say. So.
Yeah, and do you think that with the recent developments over there in Sydney that, I mean, we heard a lot of the communities just start streaming for an Aurora ban. Personally, I don't think that it needs to happen. Do you think that the community is overreacting about Aurora? I mean, you've been, yes,
I would love to talk about this. So, Aurora ban, no, I do not think an Aurora ban is necessary at this time. I believe that there is a tipping point, maybe set 4, where it will become maybe a greater consideration. I think that every Riot has this desire, I don't know how to phrase this, to reprint the same cards over and over again, where every single set we get a stack deck, every single set we get some variation of smokescreen, right? And we just get these same cards reprinted slightly differently. And like, if Called Shot was still legal, I would never lose a game on Aurora. Just never. I would
be
have
so broken.
I would have it on turn 4 every single time. I would have infinite flurries in my hand. And all we need is set 4. They print that whatever version of stack deck they want to print. And now my deck is literally can never break, right? So in terms of Aurora Band now, no. In terms of Aurora Band in the future, it depends entirely on what kind of cards Riot wants to print that directly support that. I don't think it'll ever be necessary to ban it in a non-purple color. I just don't think other colors are consistent enough for it to matter. And then in terms of Aurora as just an individual card and its ability to win games, I think that its counters are too open and too readily available for it ever to be like necessary to be banned. I think what's more likely to happen is that people are going to start playing gear removal in their main like they should.
Yep.
But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go into a matchup and they don't realize that against Aurora, it is okay. You are most likely going to lose game 1. Like, there is, as long as they get dazzling, because again, they're not maining gear, but if you plan your sideboard correctly, there is enough options for you to then go ahead and bring in gear hate. I know Corey personally, he runs set and he's got all 8 cards of his sideboard that are very gear hate heavy.
Sure.
From
that's fine.
Ash to salvage. Like, there's options out there, and I think you're right. I think for me, understanding that Riot designed these early sets in a vacuum, they weren't prepared, and we are a couple of sets behind from adjustments and changes, and we're very early on the curve with this game, right? To call bans so early before the meta really has a chance to flourish and develop.
I want to jump out ahead of this. I have no problem with bans. I would rather a ban list be overly restrictive, and I would have preferred for the first ban list if they banned like 10 additional cards. That would have been totally fine.
What's on your hit list for the ban list that you would like to see?
I mean, like I would have been like, if Aurora did get banned, I'd be fine with that. Like, it's not not gonna affect me in any meaningful way. I'll just play something else, right? It's like Aurora, Stellacorn, Bryn here. I'm sure there's something else I was thinking of, but like all these cards, any card that hits the board and you go, any card that like enables, even if it's not very good, like Bryn here sees no play right now. I was actually talking with my team earlier today. Bryn here sees no play right now, but anytime Bryn here hits the board, you're instantly, nobody's having fun at that table, right? And any card that enables like super unfun play patterns, even if it's bad, shouldn't be in the game. And this was my main gripe in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that there's a bunch of cards legal that simply that aren't even really that good, but anytime you play against them, you want to just not be playing the game anymore. So
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Like Stellacorn's a big one there, right? Like being able to hit that so quickly and have it quickly get you that card engine is so insane without having any downside. And typically Riot seems to favor that 4-drop pretty heavily. We see it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason, every top deck can just draw their whole deck every single game for some reason. And I feel like at a certain point, decks need to not be able to do that. So
yeah, without like recourse, right? Like there needs to be some downside to be able to get the advantage, right? Whether it's like you have to pay extra power or like whatever. We'll segue into some of the fun community questions.
Sure.
Was there any favorite moments for you over the weekend outside of the matches? Was there any cool experiences with teammates, good interactions with fans? Like what was kind of your favorite moments at Sydney?
Outside of matches, good moments. I had a lot of people come up to me, ask me to sign stuff. So, if you ever see me at an event, I will sign your cards.
That's super cool.
That was fun. I would say, I mean, I don't know. Like literally my whole weekend was just playing and then going back to the B&B and sleeping. So not a ton happens. It's hard to say.
Do you find you're getting recognized a little bit more now that you've kind of traveled to a couple events and people are like, oh, hey, I've seen that guy, or I know that guy?
Yes and no. I don't get recognized nearly as often as some of my teammates. Like hanging out with Gale Wins, every 5 seconds will be someone coming up to him and be like, hey, you're Gale Wins. And it's like, oh my God, this guy. And then even my friend Houses, he got best of Orn at Atlanta. So he's recognized very often. I imagine I will be recognized more, which is a blessing and a curse. Like I love, I like being popular. What can I say?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like sometimes it is like you'll have people come up and it's like this constant like dang, and it's like ooh. But first and foremost, I will sign your cards. Absolutely, please come up to me and I will sign your cards.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, where I first kind of fell in love with kind of what you were doing was your affinity for Annie back in the day. That was kind of like my first introduction. I was like, oh, and man after my own heart. I loved Annie.
Annie, I wish Annie existed in this in the version she did in set 1.
Yeah.
And shout out to Prismaticism for absolutely just taking that deck and just evolving it past what I was able to do with it. Absolutely love Annie. I was going to bring her to, originally I was going to bring Vi to Sydney, but I played Vi for like a while, like weeks. I played Vi trying to figure out like how to make that deck function in a reasonable capacity, and I just couldn't. I was just like, this deck just doesn't do anything. It loses to everything.
Yeah, it's still a little clunky.
And then I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll just play Annie at the event, right? But then I played Annie, and I'm like, the builds of Annie that were working, it's like, this isn't the type of deck I want to play. This is just not what I wanted Annie to be fundamentally. And the version of Annie that I like, the version of Annie that I played in set 1, just doesn't work anymore. There's just too many answers to that style of gameplay. Especially, I think aggro Annie in set 1 only worked because the top deck was Kaisa. I think if the top deck was anything else, Annie wouldn't have existed in that capacity. And then it came, how I ended up on Sivir was 2 weeks before the event. My friend Tog was like, hey, you should play Sivir. And I was like, should I play Sivir? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then so we just spent 2 weeks, grinding Sivir, figuring out the matchups, and then making the deck as what it is today.
Love that. Shout out to him too, putting you on game there for a minute. And it's so funny. A lot of people we talked to, they were just like, oh, I was going to play this deck, but then a buddy shoulder tapped me and was like, yeah, why don't you try this? And then they just end up like going deep into the tournament. And it's like, glad I listened to that guy.
I mean, if Tog tells you something, just listen, because he's spitting. Sometimes he'll spit something that's wrong, but you gotta listen, because sometimes he's right.
Hey, you just got to keep shooting that shot. Eventually you'll be right?
Eventually he'll say something that's correct. Exactly.
Are there any players that we should be paying attention to, maybe on your team or that you interacted with at Sydney, that are kind of under the radar, that you're just like surprised they don't get enough recognition?
That are under the radar. Shout out to my boy Gale Wins and Houses are big. Houses was second E at Sydney, very close to number 1. Anyone with TSS, all my teammates are very good players. with their own strengths, and we're pretty much all play something unique. So if you ever look at our matchup spread, it'll be like, my friend Knight from Best of Ari from Vegas, he was on Vex. Didn't quite get the best of Vex, unfortunately, but just a lot of good players on our team.
As a team, do you guys try to stay away from playing the same deck, even though you guys might all love it? Like if you guys are all doing well with Sivir, do you guys collectively try to not play the same deck, or do you guys?
So at the moment, our testing is not what I would say structured in like a meaningful capacity. It's kind of just like, everyone plays kind of what they like, and we just kind of go from there, especially because of how the pricing is structured at the moment in Riftbound, where most of the pricing is going to be centered in best ofs. It doesn't really make sense for us all to play the same deck, and it doesn't make sense for us to all play meta, right? So I would say that it generally how it has worked up until now is that everyone just we see the reveals, we go, oh, that seems kind of cool, I kind of want to play that, and then we do, and then sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't work out. Obviously, we still pay attention to what the meta is, what we expect the meta to be, and generally we're pretty close. It's just because figuring a lot of times it's kind of obvious, where it's like we kind of knew LeBlanc was going to be very good going in. Aurelius just only got good cards to her deck in addition to what she already had. Vex was a number one threat. The moment we saw Purple Vex released, we're like, okay, now we have to watch this deck, see where it goes, what it's capable of. So I would say that generally speaking, we don't avoid it. It just kind of doesn't make sense for multiple people to play the same thing. If you look at any other top team, most people aren't going to have more than 2 people on any given deck, just because the pricing doesn't incentivize you to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of talked with Colin a little bit about the pricing and the incentive, and a lot of people agreed that the best ofs are really healthy for the game.
I would agree with that.
Just because it gives you a chance to really seek after that. Whether it's your old champion from League of Legends that you used to play back in the day or whatever it is. So if Riot or UVS asked you, excuse me, to design a Sivir support card, what would you design it like?
That's a great question. A Sivir support card. Something to play in Aurora to make it more powerful. Something that was uniquely powerful in Aurora. Maybe a unit. Something to play over in addition to Mind Splitter, maybe something for the sideboard. Better sideboard tools, I think, would be nice. Something that maybe covers some of your weaknesses.
Maybe some orange removal.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe an extra consistency piece. I would love, an additional stack deck, an additional, some sort of retrain of stack deck. I would love, it's kind of hard with units are weird, because for a unit to be playable in Aurora, it has to contend with your other hits. And when your other hits are Elder Dragon and Mind Splitter, it's this unit has to be really good.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't hate maybe just another big guy that had an important effect. I struggle to think about what effect would be worth playing. It's I'm not sure what that effect would be. Maybe something like an additional ramp piece that may be flexed as something else. I don't know what that would be. Maybe a catalyst, but if you're on 12, does damage to a unit. But that seems like a really random card to print. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Vision could be pretty powerful for Sivir, and I think it's kind of underrated as a mechanic. Go ahead.
That's perfect. Something that uses gold. Something that is maybe costs a lot of power, but does something powerful, or gets a bonus. So a lot of times you'll have a bunch of gold and nothing to do with it, and you're like, man, I have all this gold and nothing to do with it.
Just stacking money.
You could just pay for a mercenary or something, and it's
maybe
just
some sort
card.
Of gold matters card. But then I don't really want them to print that, because I wouldn't be able to play that in my deck, because anything that conditional is not good enough. So it's weird. Yeah. It's weird. It's it has to be like I would want it to be something that like beats that like probably just something that beats gear. But like I already have so many cards that do that, or beats gear removal, I should say. But I already have sabotage, I already have splitter. So I don't know. I just haven't really thought about it before as like a card that I would want, because obviously the only thing that matters is getting Aurora on the field, and the deck is already so good at doing that like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I would have to think about that a little bit more.
Well, we're gonna give you the stage here. Go ahead and shout out any friends, homies, sponsors, anybody that kind of helped you get through the event. Maybe you got mom, dad. Feel free. The stage is yours. We'll give you a minute here and kind of stage is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to my team. Tog, Gale wins. Houses are big. Shout out to myself for being the GOAT. I wouldn't have been able to do it without myself. Let's see. Shout out to Sivir. Shout out to whoever printed Sivir. Shout out to the designer who originally put her in League of Legends. That guy's the GOAT, or woman. I don't know anything about the League design team. Shout out to Monster Energy. Wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys.
Yeah,
so
they kept you guys cooking, man, and we're super stoked to kind of see what you and your team cook up here with the secret sauce. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Keep us posted with that. Again, huge shout out again to TSS Souledout for joining us.
I imagine you will see me again very shortly. So
good.
Yeah, I mean we've got Vancouver this weekend, so
yep.
When's your flight leave, or how early are you getting there? I know Sydney, you got there like day of.
No, I got to Sydney on Wednesday.
Oh, you did? Okay, so you got there a little early.
Yeah. I'll be leaving for Vancouver. Is literally like I'm taking a bus up to Portland and then a train to Vancouver. So it's like, not that far. I'll probably leave like Thursday, get there Thursday evening, and then do the events on Friday and then go from there. So
yeah, I think Corey and the gang from Portland's also doing the train gang, so maybe you guys will run into each other there.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, as always, from tournament pressure to deck building philosophy, this has been an awesome conversation, and we're just really excited to kind of see what you bring. Obviously, you're bringing Sivir to Vancouver, so we'll be looking for you on stage.
You will see me.
Good. To everyone listening, thank you again for hanging out with us. This is TSS Souledout. That's my man, Corey. As always, we'll see you on the Rift.